What is up, Chronics? In this video, we'll be talking about the changes and additions that came with the brand new generation of GTA 5 for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X/S consoles. So let's get started with some of the obvious and major additions and then work our way to the more detailed stuff. So starting off, GTA Online is now offered as a separate game, meaning you don't have to buy story mode if you don't want to. However, do bear in mind that for those of you who want to use Rockstar Editor to take photos or video of your vehicles, you will need to purchase the full game that includes story mode because Rockstar Editor is only available in story mode. Continuing, when you launch the game, there is no more loading intro screen like there was before with the sirens and the glass breaking and the little loading circles and all that. Now it just puts up the GTA logo, you hit continue, and it puts you on a new landing page that allows you to easily select between online and story mode if you purchased it, of course. Plus, there's also some shortcuts to easily get to certain activities, and for those of you newer players out there, it was a bit of a pain and a little difficult to find some of these activities. Now Rockstar makes it very simple with different menus and such, and photos to make it a lot easier. Next up, the biggest change is obviously the graphics, which are significantly improved over the PS4, where it was locked to 1080p and 30 FPS. Now you can go up to 4K resolution and 60 FPS, which is definitely a big improvement, especially in terms of the FPS. And it's not only the graphics that were improved, Rockstar also improved the vegetation, water effects, fire effects, and the reflections as well. Now in terms of the graphics modes, there are 3 to choose from. These can be accessed anytime from the pause menu and under the settings tab and in the display section. The first graphics mode is fidelity mode, where the game is at its highest quality at the sacrifice of it only being up to 30 FPS. This mode is good for photos and certain slow-paced cinematic videos and such, but for hardcore gamers, I definitely recommend the other 2 graphics modes, which target up to 60 FPS. And speaking of those modes, the second one is performance mode, which allows upscaled 4K quality and is the most stable in terms of targeting that 60 FPS. And the last mode is performance RT, which is basically a hybrid of the 2. This to me is the sweet spot if you're a casual gamer, and it's the one I've been personally using. Now, if you're very competitive and are competing against other players, like racing for example, I definitely recommend changing the setting to the regular performance mode before you jump into those races. And thankfully there's no delay when you switch between them. It's instant pretty much. No loading screens, nothing like that. All 3 modes are supported by the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. However, the Xbox Series S only supports the first 2 modes, which are also downscaled a bit to upscaled 4K instead of a true 4K in fidelity mode, and only up to 1080p in performance mode at 60 FPS. So definitely make sure you have either the PS5 or the Xbox Series X to get the best experience, especially for those of you who haven't bought those newer consoles yet and are planning to. Make sure you stick to those 2. Also, the loading times are significantly improved across the entire game, not only when loading the base game or sessions, but also loading into certain properties and locations. It's all a lot quicker and very noticeable. Next up, let's talk about the pause menu, which does have a few improvements. The first of which being the online section, where a ton of new shortcuts have been added that were previously only available in story mode. Plus a few things have changed as well. So starting from the first option here, Jobs has been hidden behind a new option called Quick Join. Next up, the creator name was updated to say Rockstar Creator instead of just Creator by itself. Continuing, the swap character option is now called Manage Characters, plus there's a few other little changes as well. The biggest one being Find New Session, which allows you to select what type of session you want to go into instead of it forcing you into a public one. Beforehand, you were forced to go to story mode to then go into an invite-only session, for example, and now you can do that while you're in an online session. You can pick whatever type of session you want to go to. But honestly, I think the main reason Rockstar did this was because they were kind of forced to, if you think about it. Because remember, we have the online version only of GTA, which doesn't have story mode, so I think they were pretty much forced to add that feature, which obviously is nice for those of us who have the full game, etc. But those are the main changes there. Now, in terms of new content, there were a total of 5 new vehicles added, 2 on Legendary Motorsport website, 2 on the Southern San Andreas website, and 1 on the Warstock website. Continuing, HAL now has its own customization area called HAL's Special Auto Works, or HSW for short. But anyways, here you can currently upgrade up to 9 vehicles with the new HSW performance upgrades. At the time of this recording, 5 of them are the new cars, and 4 of them are the older vehicles that already existed in game. They might add more later on, but for now we only have 9. Now, the HSW versions of these cars offer the HSW performance upgrades, which make your cars go ridiculously fast. I mean, it's actually insane how fast these cars go. Plus, it also offers 2 new liveries and 2 new spoilers as well. But that's pretty much it in terms of like the visual upgrades. The HSW upgrades are more for the internal performance parts. Basically, think of it like a Benny's for speed instead of a Benny's for visual customization. And yes, cars with the HSW upgrades are available to use in races. However, the host of the race has the option to disable them. Next up, there's a new paint option called Chameleon that was added. This paint job is available on almost every vehicle in game and can be applied in any custom shop, not just the HSW one. Moving along, a new feature was added in the LS Car Meet where you can purchase the exact spec of another player's car, which I find kind of interesting. Now, every single item on the car will transfer that you're copying except for the actual plate text. So let's say somebody has a custom plate that says whatever, Bugatti for example. Everything on the car will transfer except for that Bugatti text. Now, let's say your friend has a glitched car with a Yankton plate, F1 wheels, and some crazy modded paint color that you really want. Just have them bring it into the LS Car Meet. You walk up to it, you buy it, and you have the exact same car minus the plate text. So Rockstar is basically giving players a way to kind of legitimately, buy these glitched or modded cars, or even if it's a normal customized car, which I find kind of interesting. But again, you do have to pay for it. It's not free, but it is kind of interesting that Rockstar is allowing that. Now, let's say you don't want another player to steal your car without your permission. You can go into the interaction menu, go to LS Car Meet, and then go to vehicle options, and at the bottom, just set it to no, and no one will be able to steal your car without your permission. Continuing, there's a new type of time trial that was added called HSW time trials. And these time trials can only be completed with an HSW upgraded vehicle, and the payout is a nice $250,000, which is definitely a lot better than the old $100,000 payout from the normal time trials. Next up, there's also a new version of races that were added called HSW, and these are basically existing old races in GTA, but are locked to specific classes of vehicles depending on what tier you put it on. And you guessed it, HSW vehicles. So instead of selecting a specific vehicle class like before, sport, super, etc., now it's categorized in tiers, where tier 1 is coupes and compacts, tier 2 is muscle, sports classics and SUVs, and tier 3 is motorcycle, super, and sports. And this definitely makes for some interesting racing since it's basically multi-class racing. Now, unfortunately, these races are locked to only 8 players currently, so that's something to keep in mind for sure. In terms of payouts, Rockstar has buffed some of the payouts for certain businesses, specifically the Motorcycle Club business, which now has a 25% buff. Also, the nightclub business, specifically the part that involves the MC items, got a 35% increase in payout as well, so we're definitely headed in the right direction. Not the best money maker. I think Gallo Perico solo is definitely way better, but at least they're trying to balance it out somewhat. Continuing, in terms of character transfer, which was absolute mess on day one, Rockstar has fixed the bug where you couldn't transfer your character if you had previously transferred it to PC at some point. However, the deletion of your old console character after you transfer to the new one still remains. And honestly, that's something I strongly disagree with, especially for those of us who have a lot of friends on PS4, for example, who still haven't been able to acquire a new PS5. It's kind of annoying when we want to go back on PS4 to play with our friends that are still on there, and we can't anymore if we transferred. It's a bit of a shame. Now, for those of you who are brand new players to the PS5 and Xbox Series consoles, or maybe you don't want to transfer your old PS4, Xbox One character, you can start fresh, and you can start with a nice boost with the Career Builder mode, which is brand new for online, which gives you 4 million GTA dollars, which you're then forced to spend at least 3 of that 4 million on one of 4 different businesses, as well as some cars and weapons as well. Now, this is great because it gives brand new players a great head start. Now, if you ask me which of the 4 to pick, I'd say you're good with either the bunker or the biker business. Either way, your main goal should be to get enough money to buy a Casaca and do the Gallo Perico heist anyways, since it's currently the best way of making money in online. And lastly, for those of you on PS5, in terms of the controller, we have the adaptive triggers, directional vibration, and other vibration effects as well. Definitely one of my favorite features so far, and something I think everyone needs to experience. And that's it, guys. Again, I didn't want to cover every little change in this video, but I did cover most of the major ones. Anyways, guys, hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.